Alright, guys, long time no see. Long time no see. Okay, everybody. Oh, hi, Manuel. What's up? Are you the only one who's here? Should I be waiting for the people? Are you only one here? Okay. What the heck is this going on here? Anywho, wait a minute. Okay. Got distracted for a minute. Oh wait, that's not that one. That one. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. Number one. Number two. Okay, back. Alright. Hopefully everybody joined in. If not, just you, Manuel. You and me. That's it, huh? This is how it's gonna be. Alright, so I don't know what's going on. You know, half of the time I feel a bit weirded out, you know, every time I talk about GameStop. All the time, right? um Conversations always surrounded when is it gonna happen, right? I don't know. I don't know. But it seems like it's so imminent, and typically that's what usually, you know, you trap people. You know, you have people rolling their eyes back every time you talk about GameStop is going to explode or whatever, right? But honestly, I don't know how to cover this for sure. But I will say this though. It looks undervalued to me. Severely undervalued. Can I say that? So if people are willing to pay, you know, before, you know, the second convertible notes to the tune of what, you know, $35 a share. After the convertible notes, they're willing to pay only $22 a share. Come on, like, isn't that like a what, close to a 50% discount? No. Okay. Let's just say 40%, huh? For good measure. So that's a 40% discount, in my opinion. But you know, whatever. Um, but could also be algorithm. I mean, it's been algorithmic for a very long time. Hey Jesus, what's up? Thank you. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I forgot to ask, but anyway, so I'm just like thinking about the chart, and you know, um, I'm not trying to predict anything. I have not had any more calls. I just, you know, let it, you know, do its thing. My 2 calls got decimated. I still have some time though. You know, if it explodes tomorrow, I'll be happy. It's okay. But yeah, that 2 call is just like it's not gonna do much for me at the moment. However, I'm not adding anything at the moment right now. I still, you know, have my shares. Um, what I did though, before I came down here, I kind of predicted this movement the last day, and I was like, okay, let me just jump into XRP real quick, and I was able to make 10% off of what I jump off of. So now I'm fully back into uh, GameStop. So and I'm talking about my Roth account here. I'm not talking about my trading account. Of course, my trading account has majority crypto right now, so that's how I'm gonna play this. But as far as my long term back, um, I'm not into XRP at that one, which is a quick. It's like, okay, I think XRP is gonna do this. So luckily, I was right. I was correct in doing that, and so now I'm able to accumulate a little bit more share of GameStop there. But keep in mind, I'm only using a portion that I'm willing to, if tomorrow it explode and I sold, I'll be fine still. See what I mean? So again, like, I don't know, I just feel like it's so boring sometimes, but also too, I know that when things are boring, this is the perfect time to buy. When people are complaining, it's not going to do anything, that's the perfect time to buy. um so I'm not worried about that. The only thing is, again, like this psychological warfare that people are feeling every time it drops like this, right? I just want, I'm sure this person's gonna listen to what I'm saying. Hi, if you're listening. Okay, don't freak out, you're fine. You'll be fine. Okay, just have to wait, until um it explodes. I don't know. Again, I don't know what. Please don't sue me. Um, no, somebody I personally know. So, um, no worry, they're not gonna sue me or anything like that. But also too, it's not going to, uh, like, this would be the perfect time to add if you have some more. If not, just wait. Like, um, I know I feel like I'm trying to reassure people that something is inevitably gonna happen and all that stuff. I hate to say it's a guarantee. It seems like it's a guarantee to me. I have no worry. I have no fear that it's gonna go down to zero at some point in time. It's like, it's ridiculous to even think about that, right? But I'm thinking, like, okay, so if people are fearful like this, typically this is the time to buy. This is the time to, hone in, or at least paying attention to it, right? Um, and so also too, the fear and greed index. I wonder. Okay, let me see. Actually, I'm kind of curious. Actually, the fear and greed index. I haven't looked at this for quite some time for this particular one. Okay, okay. So it seems like it's in fear again. Let's look at this. Neutral. What is this? Oh, neutral. Okay, so this is a neutral position on the daily. So let's go with the weekly. Okay, weekly is still neutral. Okay. So not bear, not bull. All right, all right. So it's still in this neutral. Okay, and then let's look at the monthly. Still a neutral. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that it has more time to run hot again. Okay. Or run down again too. So um the fear is still not in max fear. Okay. Depends on which time frame you're looking at, right? So every single time frame it's still in neutral. However, I don't know why this is negative 6.0 here. I don't know what that means. It says right there. Okay, negative daily. Not sure what that means. Says neutral though. Greed is 40%. Okay, okay. Um, Let me see. neutral, weekly, negative, positive. Okay, okay. I wish I know how to read this. But I feel like, again, anytime it's red, right? Look at this, red, best time to buy. Like that was like the beginning of the squeeze over here, right? Deep red. Right now we are experiencing like still um towards grayish. Okay, not much there, but again, depends on the volume. Volume comes up, comes down, and all that stuff. So that is also important to look into. Now, daily, of course, if you kind of look at the daily, let me put that over here so you could see, right? Anytime there's deep red, deep fear, uncertainty, and doubt, boom, you buy. There we go. So is this the time to buy? Maybe wait until it dips down here. I don't know. I mean, is it plausible that it's gonna dip down there? It could be. I mean, think about that. If it comes down there, what would you do in that situation? Right? I'm buying 22 and under average. Okay, cool. That's perfect for you, sir. Appreciate you. Whoever you are, I appreciate you. Haven't seen you here. Well, you're welcome. Um, but anyway, yeah, I mean 22, 24 average, that's amazing. You know, for me, you know, I've been here for quite some time, so my average is up here somewhere. So it's still at a 31-ish. Um, I haven't added too much because I don't have that much cash laying around. Right now, I'm just fully ported into crypto and GME at the moment. Now, I did miss SoFi. I know I saw it at around $6. I didn't want to buy. I thought it was going to come down to 5, right? So again, you know, you miss a whole bunch of companies over here because I was in GameStop. I'm not saying I'm mad or anything like that, but the whole point of that, me bringing it up here, let me show you what I mean by that, is that when you think that it's gonna come down to some price, okay, it doesn't mean that it's gonna come down to that price. And so you see, I was waiting on this, right? Thinking that, okay, if it comes down here, I'm gonna buy a whole bunch. Okay. That mentality is terrible because that means I'm losing. Look at this. Right now it's 20. So I was waiting for that, you know, again, the fallacy of people waiting on something and thinking that it's gonna come down there, and it never did. And so, you know, did I miss it? Big time, however, but since every dollars that I have at the time was in GME, I didn't want to sell anything, right? To get into SoFi. But my whole point in pointing that out is because of that. Like I thought it was gonna come down and was able to buy a whole bunch down here, and it never did. So what I should have done is try to monitor this, right? And then buy at the breakout or whatever. But I didn't. I did not. So I don't comment much. I listen. Oh, cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Lurking about. In that case, welcome back. Welcome back, sir. But anyway, so again, like when you feel like you need to predict something and you think that the technical analysis is going to tell you, you know, much better thing about the price and all that stuff, it doesn't always work. Doesn't always work. So, and on top of that, you might be drawing the wrong line too, right? So, did I know for sure that it's gonna come down here? No, of course not. Of course not. But I still wait for it anyway because I thought, okay, If it comes down here, I'll buy more. But over here, it's too much. Okay, so um, yeah, that was like 20% down there, right? In turn, had I buy over here, not caring about, if again I believe in this company, right? If I believe in this company, of course you just buy at any price, and would have been, up in here already. So it's okay. I mean, I follow the company. I do have their credit card, not credit card, sorry, their bank account and all that stuff. So I do use their service. They are pretty good with personal loans as well. I did take some out, and pretty easy process to go through. The interest rate is not too attractive, but at least it's functional. If you want to take a personal loan in there, it's not a advertising. I don't have any link or anything like that, but yeah, no, you can get some affiliate link if you signed up and all that stuff. So there's a way for them to get more and more people to sign up for the, to have the bank account. And apparently they are bringing back crypto soon, and so that is also another, uh, you know, revenue stream coming back. And of course, student loan has been kind of reestablished. I think the reason why it was, coming down is because, again, negative press on this company, saying that this company is not going to be able to do this and that. It's not going to be able to be, regular bank here. And in the meantime, of course, you have this going on where, you get green for so long, and people are just not able to take advantage of that. But again, you see this green, right? You could tell that all of this, estimate here, they're doing it for a reason. If you look at this right here, I'm thinking that they're underestimating this sometimes, or like make the bar so low because somebody's owned this whole bunch of shares, and then they're like, oh my goodness, they're like 100%. But again, like, it's not as good as GV for sure, you know. But again, this is a bank, and it might be accounted differently. The fact that they have so many members signing up over the years, and I'm sure this earnings here that they just have, is it? Oh no, did they have an earnings? Oh, the earnings is coming. I thought it was they already have the earnings already. Never mind. But anyway, so the fact that it's coming up here, what is this earnings like? Okay, they do bid a lot. I mean, they increase their revenue. Okay, cool. Maybe because they are expecting to have a spike for crypto lovers out there to come back into the fold. So again, this might be a signal to short at the. I don't know. I'm just saying. Might be. I don't know. I didn't see the financials yet, so I don't, have much thoughts. The only thought that I have for this company is the fact that I was gonna buy it when it was like around $5 over here, but I missed out on that. It's okay. There's always other opportunity, you guys. Come on, opportunity is everywhere. Like I said, unfortunately, we're stuck here, but is it really stuck, or you're just waiting on your investment to, be priced correctly by the market maker, or by the whole market actually. So again, like, eventually you're gonna have to, price this company correctly. I feel like it's coming close, it's cutting close. I know the S&P 500 has been raised. Again, So who knows if we are going to be able uh, to get into it this fiscal year. Might not be able to, you guys. So that means the next fiscal year we're going to be able to. So matter of time, we have to wait, right? So understand that. Now, yeah, so I'm fully back into so 100% my Roth is GME right now at the moment. Yes, I'm gonna shave some if it's some explosion happening, okay? But essentially, I'm waiting on the S&P 500, but again, look at this, $22 billion market cap. So they just increased the market cap to that, which is okay. I mean, like I said, so fiscal year, the year 2000, that's my prediction. Oops, sorry. There you go. My prediction is by the year 2027, we are going to be in the S&P 500. Of course, by that time, they're going to increase it to, let me take a wild guess. No, no. Let's not do that to them. It's okay. But I feel like, again, within that year, we're going to be able to get to the S&P 500 there. I know there's a lot of people who think that they're not going to be able to, but if they're not if they're not burning money, if they're making operationally, in the plus, then I don't see why not. And if they are able to get into the market cap of $22 billion, we are, again, just because you're qualified doesn't mean they're gonna put you in there. You have to fight for it, I guess, right? Fundamentally, it improved already, so that could just be gone. I mean, I could just do that, right? And this could just be gone. No. Let's bring it back. But again, when people are saying that GME cannot do something, there you go. Wait, double check the node conversion rate. Why? What about it? Holding so far long in Roth, just saying positive upside, they got a stadium. Okay. Sure, I know. I'm thinking, yeah, maybe that's the best route to be. I know, I feel like I missed out on the $5. So right now I'm psychologically thinking that it's more expensive now. But it might just be psychological, right? If the companies continue to improve and all that stuff, so I don't see why not. I would just add it at this price. I mean, it's close to $20, right? So there you go. Double check now. The conversion rate is 34. Okay. For sure. Oh, am I doing the wrong thing here? Let me see. Yeah, I have it over here. I said, why am I not? I think you didn't see me scroll down. That's why. I think I keep track. But yeah. So let me go back here. With that $8 billion, I don't think they're gonna do anything with it, you guys. I really don't think so. Maybe at most buy Bitcoin with this, any amount of money that we make, we just buy Bitcoin with it. That would be great, right? Because that means we're gonna be able to increase Bitcoin per share for people. I mean, for shareholder. Since it is the most popular thing. Yeah. Since it's the most popular thing, it is it's going to increase the shareholder equity there. And of course also too, right? I mean, when you think about the the fixed supply, the inflation narrative, and all that stuff. Now, whether you believe it or not, if you know, just think of it as a narrative based rally here, you could say that Bitcoin is the most pristine asset. It's going to be. I know, like, it might take time, 20 years and all that stuff. Hopefully, you guys would still be alive to see GameStop at that price at that point. Joking, you guys, joking. Please don't be mad. Okay. Yeah, you missed that one. Okay, good. Cool. So, but yes, I think Bitcoin is the only way to go. But I mean, push start arcade thing concept is actually a good one too. I mean, what if we are able to tokenize those things, right? Or accept Bitcoin in one of those arcade? That would be great, right? Or some sort of stablecoin rail that could be possibly um, be accepted and all that stuff. So, or have some Bitcoin ETM over there, for people to transact, buy Bitcoin or convert your token into Bitcoin and all that stuff. So just to get people into the door, I mean that concept of arcading, whatever that means. It's pretty in right now. I feel like there's a bar that have so much arcade game and people just go and play there. 50 cents per game. And yeah, if you mix alcohol with it, people would get drunk and then just spend so much money on the arcade pinball machines and all that stuff. It's kind of fun actually. I went to one recently, and I wouldn't. Of course, I didn't drink, but I could see, you know, people get drunk and spend a whole bunch of money just try to push the pinball machine there or try to win some arbitrary score. People get so competitive too, they're like, I could beat you, and then before you know it, you spend $50 right there. So it's feasible for sure, but the adults, I see a lot of adults there too, like middle age. I said middle age, like 50s, in their 50, going there try to play the basketball. Is it basketball? Whatever that thing. I should have. But yeah, you throw the ball just like the basketball, and then you uh, gain the points from there. So that idea is there, and also too, like I feel like GameStop is perfect setup for that because they are 100% corner market there. Like no, there's no competition when it comes to scale. If that concept takes off, and indeed that's what they're going for, it could be some revenue stream there coming in. Now people think that might be too costly, as in getting those arcade machines and all that stuff and maintenance, and it might cost a lot of overhead. I don't see why not at least have a couple of locations and just to see whether it's going to be profitable or not. Business, you have to take some risk there. I know people don't want to, like nobody wants to take any risk anymore, and I think that's why none of the company is using that money to do any R&D, because they're just so deathly afraid of losing money and all that stuff. So in turns, you don't really get any new concept coming in, or at least new way of trying to at least generating that shareholder equity. And so again, I know buying Bitcoin is the laziest way to do it, but since the money printing it just keep going on, it's much easier just to buy Bitcoin and hold for 10 years and then boom, right? I think MicroStrategy has a good idea there. But again, like that's a risk in and of itself too, because if people think that it is a just a fad, like something that these young kids do, and Bitcoin is a scam and all that stuff, that's going to be detrimental to the share price of GameStop. But again, if people understand the value of Bitcoin, they would, for the people that sell shares because of that, there are people who will buy shares because of that as well. So there's always a buyer and a seller at every turn. My argument is that I feel like as time goes on, more and more people are going to join in to the Bitcoin network because they see that it's working for the last generation, right? And so whatever works for the last 30 years or so, right? Or let's see, I think 29 would be 20 years when Bitcoin was, 4 more years would be 20 years. So with that 20 years, you see the success of the, people who hold Bitcoin, and then it takes another 20 years for people to realize, okay, Bitcoin is the thing to do now. So you're still early in a sense if you get in today, but there will still be people converting. I watch a Bitcoin podcast, a whole bunch of content actually, and there was one calculation. I think that was the guy who recommend 40% allocation for the aggressive, more younger population, because they have more time to recover if something were to happen. So that's why, if you want to be aggressive, 40% should be in Bitcoin, and then 10% conservatively. And he did the math of like, okay, if you take the whole market, the whole, asset in the world, right? The whole asset in the world is 800 $800 trillion. That's like the most all asset in the world. Okay. So if Bitcoin were to just get 1%, if everyone who in the whole entire world, like, of course, like that's hypothetical, put 1% of their network into Bitcoin, Bitcoin would be $8 trillion. Okay, that's 4 times right now. 4 times it is right now. I mean, that's pretty feasible, I think, right? So, in that case, $500,000 worth of Bitcoin. So this math is going to be, if that would happen, just 1%. I think that's feasible. I think, again, guys, don't be too naive to think that it's not going to happen. And I hate it when people say, oh, that will never happen. That will never happen? Really? Are you sure about that? Of course it would happen. But anyway, so if you have 2,000 shares, right? You would have $10,000 worth of Bitcoin into GME shares if they don't add any more right there. So that calculation depends on the price. And if the price right now is 100, see. But anyway, so you just calculate it yourself there. But essentially, right now, at this moment, at this price level, GME has $1 worth of Bitcoin per share. So it's pretty, it's not far-fetched to have an arcade and accept Bitcoin, or allowing people to buy Bitcoin or convert the token into Bitcoin too. So that would be awesome. Just speculating. I don't know what Ryan Cohen is doing at the moment. I know that's been the frustration of many people, but if he keep deliver, a lot of shareholder equity here, why not? Like, just wait and see. Have him trade the shares for you. right? Anytime he's selling the shares, he's selling it for you. I'm telling you. So he's acting like a trader too, right? What if he's gonna use this and buy the stock back at $20 a share? I think he's allowed to do that, right? So, or just buy, the whole thing in Bitcoin. That'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah. No, I don't think he's gonna buy the whole thing. Again, if anything, any amount of money that he's making off of the interest right here would go into Bitcoin. I think that's more conservative, and that way every year you're gonna have $8 billion liquid in that too. Now my thought was, I feel like, okay, so before I go to that, let me see the option chain. I know this just sad, so sad. Every time I see this, so sad. They just drive the volume down, so that, again, sentiment, right? Sentiment, keeping you thinking that nobody cares about this company, nobody wants to buy this company. Don't look at this company. Don't buy this company. Nah. Typically, that's when you should be listening, or you should be paying attention. At the very least, pay attention. You don't have to, jump in at the moment, but pay attention. Look at the off exchange. 63% off exchange. So how can you have any sort of price discovery? And here's the reason why. Because they don't want these options to go in the money, right? Because they get to collect these premiums here. Okay. You are set up for failure every time you buy calls. I know, I'm guilty of it too, thinking it's gonna spike tomorrow, thinking it's gonna spike the next 2 months. Okay, maybe, I don't know. But it's just, if market makers is able to pick the price, remember what Citadel was telling you. It's like, we were so, what's that, Ken Griffin, right? It was like, oh, we're so sophisticated that we have these smart analysts out there that are able to set the price of an asset. It's like, we know what price it should be. Okay, you're setting the price? I thought the market decide what the price is. And so if the market maker has the ability to set the price, then it's not a free market. Right, so it's arbitrary. Who to say that, a certain company that just IPO'd, get to be traded at, and absorb a exorbitant amount of money, like the Circle, right? Circle traded at what, 1,000 PE ratio right now, close to 2,000 PE ratio, something ridiculous. But still, somehow that demand is there, but for some reason for GME, there's no demand right there. And so, again, the demand, supply and demand, they just do it. If they hold a large sum amount of a certain company, they just let it rip, right? Just let it run as quickly as possible, because that's going to inflate their asset price. So that's cheating for sure, right? It's not a free market. We all know this. GME is the only company that announced Bitcoin and then the price come down. They raise money to buy Bitcoin and then the price come down. Now, there might be people frustrated because Brian Cohen doesn't add enough Bitcoin onto the balance sheet. That could just be a strategy that he, employed right now. to see, okay, if I buy some Bitcoin, what happened? Next time when I add Bitcoin, I will add something more meaningful and see what happened. But he's not going to go all in, right? Just to test the water. Okay, so if we add twice the amount of Bitcoin that we had before, what happened? Is the price going to come down twice as strong, twice as quickly? Who knows? You know. So perhaps leadership was trying to try to gauge the market too. What the reaction is going to be. Who's going to react to it most? Retail, call option buyers, or what? Right? Typically, people who are frustrated at Ryan Cohen is because of the call buyers. People buy calls, expecting it to go to $1 million next week. You can't do that. Nobody, could really predict when it's going to happen unless, you are the insider yourself. So with this one, the reason why they don't want the price to run away from them is because they cannot control this gamma ram or whatever they call it. Because any amount of price action, it ensues this betting. Okay, more and more people keep betting it up. But yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's gonna end around 23.50 for Wednesday. Okay, hold on, let me see. Okay, $23. So it's gonna be flat for quite a bit of time until it's not. Okay. I feel like Max Payne works 90% at a time. 90% at a time. I don't know. Don't quote me on this though. I might be wrong. People are gonna be like, oh, let me just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. Anyway, all in all, I think this is the best time to buy, you guys. I'm in 22. That's ridiculous in and of itself. If it still stay flat, of course, I will have to wait. But for those of you who's been waiting for a year, I assure you, you'll be fine. Okay, I've been here for 4 years. Okay, and my cost average is like way higher than it is now. So don't freak out. You'll be fine. Okay. We'll see how it's gonna work. But anyway, so this guy is talking about inflation. I know I bring up inflation a lot because I feel like it's a top of it's important because it's has to do with your ability to pay for things and all that stuff. And if the inflation is like if we're being lied to about the inflation, we cannot make the right decision. And if people thinking that 2% is okay, for them to inflate it at that price, at that point, then you have to question yourself: are they really inflate at 2% per year, or they're lying to you about it? See what I mean? So of course the 2% comes from them, okay? And so if you calculate your own term, you don't see 2% a year. You see more likely to see at least 8% a year. I did the calculation already, right? So that's why. So do your own. I mean, I know certain items jump more. There's an outlier of items that are, increasing in an exorbitant amount of price, like egg, for example. At one point it was like crazy. But if you compare the overall grocery bills, for example, you would see that the inflation is more than 2%. Anyway, so let's listen in. I have a few minutes. I'm gonna take some water here, so it might be a bit long here. Okay, I'll jump in a minute.
That people see it over there. And, it's amazing to me that our bond market has held together as well as it has, but it has. But we've seen a couple of tests. I mean, in fall of 2023, it went through 5%, and 12 Fed governors quickly came out and said, "Oh, no, don't worry, we're done raising rates." So, basically, they are going to be forced into printing again, and it's going to be bigger still, and then we're going to have another devastating round of inflation. I mean, I think the reason the book is timely, and I think the reason why more and more people are focusing on it, including the luminaries that you spoke about earlier, is just that you just can't ignore it anymore. Everybody goes to the supermarket to buy food. And I mean, to me, every time I go, it's a horrifying experience. I just can't believe what a basket of food costs. I just can't believe it. And I know it's going up more than 2 or 3% a year, so.
Well, and also there's home insurance and auto insurance. Home insurance, which you have to have in order to have a mortgage in most cases, and also auto insurance, which you have to have in order to drive on the road. Because you can't, your car registration will be yanked otherwise. Both those, they've spiked extraordinarily. No explanation, Larry. Yeah. I think, personal guess, they're up to their eyeballs in commercial mortgage-backed disasters, and they're having to make it up by just gouging us on the revenue side. But I'm not positive.
You're one of the first people to say that. I completely agree. I think all those insurance companies hold a bunch of commercial real estate that's they're getting tanked on. They also hold a lot of bonds, and just generally speaking, long-term bonds. And look at what's happened to the long bond market in the last 5 years. And so they're losing money on all their investments, and their only choice to cover those losses is to jack our rates. I mean, as you mentioned pre-show, a young driver that you're familiar with, what's she paying? $4,500 for to enter the auto market.
Yep. Just to drive 1 year, $4,500, little over $4,500, and has ticked all the boxes for safety. Driver's ed, this, that, no accidents, all that. Right. So that's the best rate you can get in Georgia right now. And by the way, the insurance agent leaned over to my friend and said, "Just be thankful she's not a boy. It would be even worse."
Even worse. Wow. Yeah. So, look, the problem is very obvious to a lot of people. What is not so obvious, again, the reason I wrote the book, is that the monetary system's what's broken. I mean, what inspired me to write the book is I was watching Team Blue and Team Red argue last year, and I watched the debate, between these candidates, and nobody was talking about the monetary system. Nobody was talking about the debt. Nobody was talking about M2. None of that. So it's just not even discussed. And, and then look, I mean, it's the same old. I mean, this big, beautiful bill is coming down right now, and I think it's close to getting passed. And, they basically, what happened to the Freedom Caucus? I mean, these guys caved on everything. You're Thomas Massey, you try and stand up for it, and Trump vilifies you. I mean, it's just, they can't stop this train.
They can't. So I want to put the chart up because you mentioned it. This is M2. M2 is powering to an all-time new high again. So here we are for people looking at home, starting in 1998. It just sort of like keeps growing and growing. M2, this is why we have inflation. It keeps growing. But look at this, because COVID, right? Yeah. This enormous 40% increase in just about a year. Right. Of the money supply, and that's driving why we're having the insurance and the grocery experiences we're having. Right. I was surprised to pull this chart up and discover that it just hit an all-time new high. So people are like, oh, stock market's hitting a new high, Bitcoin, gold. These are all actually derivatives to me of this chart, in essence, right? So what's driving this, though? Because the Fed's shrinking its balance sheet. I know that commercial banks are reporting lower loans. Larry, where's the M2 coming from? Do we have to talk about Elon's magic money machines now, or?
Well, I think it must be actually coming out of some of it's coming out of the credit card companies, because you're seeing large credit card growth, and that's just, they can print money, so to speak. I mean, they issue credit, give you money to buy something that you don't have, and so that's a growth supply. I do think some of the banks are actually growing. This happens to be the US M2, I believe. If you look at global, you'll see that there's a lot of growth in China. Huge growth in China. And so that's pushing global M2 up very sharply, and because they're trying to fight a downturn in their property market. So, I mean, it really is credit growth. I mean, Doug Nolan writes a credit bubble bulletin every Saturday morning, which I make a point to read. And he pointed out some of the growth and some of the credit, statistics. And there are just a lot of them that are growing at, 10, 20, 30, 40% a year. I mean, just credit leads to M2 growth. When you create a new loan and you issue, money against that loan, well, that's more money in the money supply, and obviously the loan's on the balance sheet. But the other thing I think is going on, Bassett and Trump have been talking about the possibility of having a shadow Fed president, appointing the next Fed president because they can't get Powell to resign. And of course, what that person would then say is, hey, just hang on until next May and, we'll have ZIRP and QE and everything else. And of course, markets are nothing if not forward looking. And so, these markets will say, okay, great. All we got to do is hang on for, 10 months and it's party on, Garth. Well, we can do that. Let's borrow and lever up to do it because we know that everything's going to go a lot higher when all that new money comes into the system in that time frame. So a lot of things going on, but that's kind of my take. And I think, what this implies to me, it's just incredibly bullish for the prices of things that can't be printed. And, the top of that list are Bitcoin, gold, and silver. And then a little further down is real estate. But real estate, I've always said, has a lot of problems because of the taxes and it's hard to move it and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Hey,
that's going to be crazy, right? But anyway, so that's just one perspective there. Of course, like with the, M2 money supply, we saw that chart going straight up like crazy. He mentioned the global, that one was the United States, but the global one, because of due to China and all that stuff, creating more printing money, right? Essentially, or printing more debt onto the markets and all that stuff because they have their commercial real estate and all that stuff blow up like what 3 years ago, who knows, right? But there's a lot of stuff that is happening behind the scene that it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but all road leads to more money printing, huh? So that's why people cannot afford anything. And of course, like, older generation, they typically would say, it's like, well, work harder. It's like, okay, how harder? Like 4 jobs? Is that 4 jobs okay? On the resume for, how about 24 hours of working a day? Is that good enough to put a food on the table? Now that's just egregious. But my point is that, they keep saying that we are not either not smart enough. Everybody again stretched thin to the teal. Well, they get to leverage your money, and then if something happened to that, principal, they get to get bailed out by the big system. Again, like people are taking advantage. Whoever taking advantage of that is closer to the money printer. And so that's why you have richer get richer, poorer get poorer type thing, right? But again, Bitcoin could solve that. If people caught on to Bitcoin and understand that, okay, if you want to opt out of the system, you could just buy physical gold or buy, Bitcoin or some sort of company that related to Bitcoin, which is GME too, that are at least, having some skin in the game in the grand scheme of things. If the government is not able to keep the lid on the money printing part, and so eventually, it's a race to the bottom here. Whoever get to print the fastest, just like what MicroStrategy was saying, or MicroSailor was saying. Whichever government who caught on to the fact that you just print money to buy Bitcoin and there you go. That's the solution to everything. Then, I don't know if that's the solution, but I feel like if a lot of people caught on to that idea, you could store value into Bitcoin much better than real estate. That's another thing too. A lot of rich people buy real estate to store value. And more now, you could see that real estate have some costs associated with it. And if these billionaires and trillionaires and whatever, right, eventually, caught on to that fact, or at least their advisor is going to be like, hey, this might be a good idea to at least put, 2% of your net worth, or 3, 4 or 5, 10, whatever, then that's when, Bitcoin's going to go crazy high. Okay. Now, of course, like they have paper Bitcoin, like they call it an ETF and all that stuff. That might be the reason why Bitcoin hasn't gone crazy yet, right? They need some time to orchestrate those price hike and all that stuff, or markup of the price, because not everyone kind of caught on to that yet. And so, but Bitcoin on exchange is very low right now. It just typically means that there's not enough Bitcoin to go around. So when it's depleting this much, then the price is due for a spike, for a run or whatever, a super cycle of some sort. I was actually looking for something here. While I'm babbling, I'm just not seeing it at the moment. Okay, meanwhile, let's listen to the gentleman here.
You might be interested. I just did a big interview with Mitch Vexler. He's out of Texas, and he talks about how the property taxes are a full-on scam. They're a fraud. How properties are appraised, how they just ratchet higher. Of course, it's a tax on an unrealized gain, all of that. But his point was that he had county after county after county in Texas, Oklahoma, every state he's looked in, where there's no mathematical chance that they can pay those bonds back. So they just roll them.
Yeah.
They just roll them. He says it's about a $5.1 trillion time bomb. And of course, that will be the next big print, right? Because it'll have some cool like acronym.
Well, like that's the thing. Yeah, they'll try and hide it, and they'll say they're not. I mean, as one point you made earlier, you said, well, the Fed is tightening. Well, yes and no. They're still tightening on the mortgage bond side, but as you'll recall, a few months ago, the $25 billion per month of QT went down to 5. Yeah, so tightening as much. And they're now talking. I mean, you see cracks in the system, right? I mean, there's this thing called the supplementary leverage ratio, the SLR. It determines how much a bank can buy Treasury bonds. Well, they're amending that to let the banks buy more of the Treasury bonds. I mean, they've got a problem. They've got $9 trillion of short-term debt that they've got to roll over. And, with rates in the 4% range, that's a lot of money. I mean, the interest costs in this government debt we have today is larger than the defense budget. And I think it's getting close to being larger than Social Security. It might already be a touch larger. So, they really need lower interest rates to try and get the budget even close to being, balanced or out of the situation it's in right now.
Well, so the story has been, and you're exactly right. At first, they came in and said, we're going to shave off, expenses. And then they said, too tough. We're going to grow revenue, right? This is all about, 333. We're going to get the GDP just like screaming higher. So in that first chart we talked about, for everybody listening, what the government is going to do is, instead of attacking the blue line, they're going to attack the red line. They're going to try and make the red line go up faster rather than flatten out the blue line on top. Now, that's
pretty steep. Like, this is what he's talking about, where the red line just go parabolic. It's impossible. So the blue line is like the debt, security, and loan liability level. So, it's just exploded. And how can you outwork that? Nobody can outwork that. Doesn't matter. It's humanly, it's impossible, to grow that high. Unless you're the CEO type or whatever, okay. But even that takes time, And so if the inflation is growing that steep, unless you're a crook yourself, right? You're just scamming other people. It's like, okay, doing business without causing anything. Then there you go. I mean, but that's the incentive that, this economy is created, so that, the insurance company, because they buy into bonds, just like he was explaining earlier, had to raise the insurance so high. I know 1 year they raised my insurance by 10% 1 year. And so, and that's not including other time in which they were increasing it too. So it's becoming more expensive for sure. And it's not by the rate of 2% here. And then yeah, I mean, you could say, well, why own a car? Then just ride a bus to work. Okay, well, that's going to take 5 hours to get to work. So how much cut do you want people to do? You know, it's unrealistic at that point, at that moment in time. And that's why society fall, is because, you know, the people that are supposed to prop up the economy for real are not able to, because everything is just fake money, right? Just arbitrary by a handful of people are deciding the rate of money or the cost of money, right? And so they get to decide, you know, money costs less for them to use, but, you know, they turn around and charge us, what, 30% to use that same amount of money. So always set up to benefit the people up top. Again, that's for the banking system, right? If you set the banking system straight and, you know, not allowing the bank to use the depositor money in order to, you know, do any type of investment, separate the two. Okay, you have an investment banker, and then you have the domestic bank that are, you know, holding. The requirement would be 80% of the depositor money should be held, locked up, right? You cannot use those money no matter what. If you do, you go to jail, right? Because that way there's no bank run, right? Let's say 50% of people are, you know, who wants their money back, the bank would still be operational, right? Now, the reason why, you know, we're in this mess in the first place is because the bank used almost all the money. You know, it used to be 10% reserve, now 0. So if all of us want to get the money, of course, that's why it costs the bank run and all that stuff. I mean, you could say, well, what are they going to use? It's such a waste to just hold 80% of the depositor money. You know, when we have all this money to lend out, why not we just lend it out? Okay, well, you expose the depositor money to enormous amount of risk. That's why. Because if one investment go bust, then the rest of it's going to go bust too. That's why, again, too big to fail, that's the concept there. It's like no matter what, somebody's going to, you know, bail them out. And that's the incentive too for the people that are figuring out the game. It's like, well, the game is just to borrow and just to risk a whole bunch of other people's money. And if you're wrong, the government's going to bail you out anyway. If you're right, you get to keep a whole bunch of money. How is that fair? No, it's not fair. But for some reason, we're still propagating that system to go on forever until the end of time, and then just blame it on younger generation to be like, well, you're just too lazy to work. Okay, all right, well, what have you been doing for the last 50 years, sir? Have you been doing anything productive? No, of course. But again, the blame and the whatever needs to stop at some point, right? I get it, you know, at some point you become an adult and, you know, you take financial responsibility for yourself. And that's why, you know, yes, there are ways to do it. However, you know, the way that people are expecting other people to do it is unrealistic sometimes, right? Especially come from the top. I get it because again, it's such, like, I'm so lucky that I am, you know, obsessed with, you know, this type of thing. So now I know what to do. And again, I'm not claiming that I'm like a genius or anything like that. I just think that, you know, to be in the stock market at the moment and knowing that Bitcoin is the only way, right? I don't know if it's the only way, but it seems like the only solution to this problem, which is money printing, right? It's going to be rocky for sure, right? Like they're going to try to scare a lot of people out of Bitcoin. So again, Bitcoin could crash and then coming back. While people are freaking out selling Bitcoin at whatever price, right? Less than $100,000, they're gonna scoop it up. And the cycle reset again. Remember when people are freaking out selling it to them at $3,000 a coin? Some people freaked out, and some billionaire probably scoop it up like, oh, okay, $3,000 per coin. Let me get 100 coins, and then just wait, right? And then they sell it on the way up for profit. But again, the point of that is to say that money printing, the train will never stop, and I think this is a good segue to talk about the bond market as well. He mentioned about the treasury bond, TLT and all that stuff. TLT continued to go down because government bond has been printing too much, and so now they cannot even pay the principal back. And so what do? They have to prop the value of the bond up. So the only way for them to do that is to lower the rates as quickly as possible, or to counteract that in some way. The Fed has been trying to keep the rate high to tame the inflation, but now because the rate is quote unquote too high, which is only 5%, or less than 5% actually right now. They want to lower it to 0. So what happened when that happened? It means that this type of bond is going to be more valuable because this one is backed up by Bitcoin. Okay. When I covered this one, it was at 105 dollars. So right here. Right here. Did I buy a whole bunch? No. Am I regret not buying? Yes. But the whole idea is that this is going to continue to go higher because they're going to chase this yield. The yield at this moment, if you buy it at $122 a share right now, you are able to yield yourself at 8% because this is going to pay you $10 per unit. Okay. So the $10 per unit, people are going to want this yield. And the more people chasing this, the higher this bond will go higher in value. And the APY is going to keep going down. Okay. So if the Federal Reserve only going to give you 0, or the bank's not going to give you any amount of money or any yield or whatever, then people are just going to be doing this, getting 10%. Getting $10 per unit for this one, and going to keep chasing that yield. Okay. Now, of course, earlier buyers get to appreciate at the onset. They already up 40% already just buying it from the bottom over here, right? But at any point in time, obviously, there are times when it's going to come down like this too, right? And so you bought it at this price, but the bond value is actually this if you want to sell it to someone else, right? If you want to sell it to someone else. But the whole idea is to buy and hold it and then get the yield from it. So again, if you think that Bitcoin is safer, is more pristine collateral and all that stuff, you will get I think more and more people are gonna trust Bitcoin more. So that's why I think this is gonna do well. Of course, I'm hoping Ryan Cohen gets some of this too, right? Not only that you're gonna get the stability of the MSTR balance sheets, because this has seniority. Okay, so convertible bond get the most senior, and then the next one would be Strive. Okay, and Strive has this protection too, where if for whatever reason they are unable to pay you that $10 per unit for 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter, or whatever, it will get added to the next quarter. So they will pay you, I think, $20. So it's accumulative in that. And if they continue not to be able to pay that, you get to appoint the board of director to make sure that this get paid, your dividend get paid. So again, that's why it was built to give that trust that no matter what, you're gonna be able to get that yield. So again, if Ryan Cohen were to buy into it, technically we could control the board of MSDR to make sure the money get paid back. And not only that, this value is going to continue to go higher as well. So technically, you don't even need to hold for the whole year. If you are happy with just the past 5 days here, happy with this 16% gain, you could just sell it to someone else, and get that 16% gain right now. See? So upside is still here because people are gonna still want that yield and chase it. Retail and the like, obviously retail could buy this too. I know for sure that SoFi offer it. So. Yeah, that's an opportunity there. I see it everywhere, you guys. I see it everywhere. Okay, I think I'm pooped out at the moment. I hope I make some sense. I know I kind of go on and on about, Bitcoin and all that stuff. It's like it's the most amazing thing, right? I truly think that it is, though. That's why I talk about it. But I think sometimes you just have to move quick to decide whether it should be. But I still think that people have time. It's not ever too late to start anything. As long as you understand it more, on the fundamental level, that if money is printing left and right, it's bound to go into the asset. So no matter what asset you own, whether it's a GME stock or Bitcoin, you're gonna be able to appreciate that, in however many years it's going to appreciate in price. So the whole idea is that asset price is gonna go higher no matter what. Okay, including GameStop. Yes. So there's a lot of sentiment going on here. I know, because the price action, that's the only thing that they could attack GameStop at right now, is the price action. Without the price action being this low, being this depressing, people are, will pay attention to this company once again, just like how it was over here. Okay. So popularity is going to come back, but retail is going to miss out for sure, because if they're just falling asleep over here, right, just like they were falling asleep over here, it would never do this, it would never do that, you're going to see it happening soon. But again, just be on the lookout for this level right here around 19 or 18 right there. Because again, like recently right here, I can't even draw it. They don't let me. That's crazy. There we go. I want to draw this one right here. Boom. So that level, of course, like the most kind of support there, I guess. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Hello, hello. Hello, goodbye. And yeah, might see you tomorrow. We will see. I'm hoping something's gonna happen. If not, just have to wait more, a little bit longer. All right. I will see you when I see you.